from a mentality standpoint, Terrell, just trying to drive the ball down people's throat, and in that case, felt like tried to do something fancy might be the wrong word, but
no, I don't think we tried to do anything fancy. I think we tried to, run the plays that we felt pretty comfortable with going into the game, and then at halftime made some adjustments. And look, this isn't a fancy football team. This is one of those teams, whether we throw it or run it, that we just have to be a tough football team, but at the same time have to be smart. And we have to be able to go out there and line up and be mentally tough on a down-after-down basis.
KJ and Lyons, WEEI. Good Patriots Monday to you. Gerard Mayo. Maybe that's the next of my parodies called Hot Read. Turn your head on one. It's just that bad, John. I mean, that's been bad, and so has the allergies this season. Like this, we'll talk to Khari Thompson here in 1 minute. John, I have an electric lawnmower, and that shows you how poor I am in the construct of this industry, an electric mower. So I've got like this cord in my hand, and I'm plugging it to my house, which could set the house on fire.
Wait, it's not a battery one, like you plug it in?
No, it's a corded one. This is how poor I am. And I tell the story. So
is that even like still legal?
Well, here's the thing. This is in this industry, you measure by either like how many power tools you have, snow blowers, things like that. So I used to work with the great Matt Siegel, who used to be at another station here, but he, like everybody's going now, he was like the first to go of all these guys who've been like in the media for like 50 years. So I'm practicing a little putt thing in the hallway there, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, Matty's got to have at least 4 or 5 snow blowers. Just in wealth. You know what I mean? Like, just in wealth. Then I realized, I was like, wait, this guy goes to Florida all the time, which means he probably has 4 or 5 guys come over with their snowblowers and do his yard. Like that is the level you want to get to. Damn with this electric mower and these and the allergies going on with it. So, John, if there's one thing I would tell you about you stepping into this industry now, is aim to have 5 guys bring the snowblower to your house.
Yeah, I only have one snowblower right
now. Brother, you're already ahead of me. I'm still the shovel guy. Still to come. Keywords: Peggate, Stadies, Gardner Minshew, Cat Food, and Dooku Kim. But right now, from Boston.com's very own Khari A. Thompson. Khari, thank you so much for being here on KJ and Lyons. Good Monday to you, man.
Good Monday. Thanks for having me on. One quick thing. I'm Khari Thompson. Khari used to work for you guys. There's 2 of us.
Khari. Okay, so I'm going to get on my producer because my producer, Joe. Joe, did you say Khari?
I did say yes.
There you go.
And John did feed me a little bit, but I wasn't
he will
listening.
be massacred outside of the station at the end of the show.
So it's no worries. It's confusing because we have the same name and we work for the same company.
Khari.
Khari. I want to get to yesterday's game. KJ and I were having this discussion earlier because I think we both felt that the defense did not play nearly as well as it did in week 1. Obviously, the offense had some struggles. When you look at this game, do you look at this as, hey, they lost it in all 3 phases? Do you put more blame on the defense, more blame on the offense? Kind of, what did you see on that front?
Man, John, that's kind of negative, man. I mean, to me, the Patriots played well. Like, the Seahawks were a team that was 9-8 and a fringe playoff team last year. Like, they just missed it. And, like, this is a Patriots team that we had no expectations going in. So the fact that they were up by 3 late in the fourth quarter, of course they blew it and had the block kick. But, like, we got to give them some credit here, man. They played really well.
Khari, all right, because I'm going to practice saying your name here. So, Khari, this goes into the conversation that John and I were having, briefly mentioning Alex Van Pelt. Do you feel like he was playing to what was given to him, or he was playing to what he had in terms of talent?
Well, I think that he could have did a better job scheming up some things for his playmakers. Like, Pop Douglas having 0 targets is, like, inexcusable. Like, he's arguably your best receiver. And for him to not touch the ball at all, I think that's a scheming issue. You don't have to chuck it down the field or do anything crazy, but you can drop some screens, If you're going to do an end around, why are you giving it to Polk instead of Pop? You know what I'm saying? Like, Pop has that speed where he can actually do something. Like, there are some things schematically that I think Van Pelt definitely could have did differently.
I want to follow up with something you said in your first answer, Khari, in that if you look at yesterday, they lose an overtime game to a team that very well could be in the playoffs this year, one of the better teams in the NFC. If we zoom out, they've won 1 game, they've lost another in overtime. How do you feel about Gerard Mayo and kind of the program he's running and the progress they've made?
You're feeling good, right? I mean, just watching this game, it feels like we have a competent football team again, which we could not say in the Bill the last couple of years. So, like, isn't that fun? Like, that's what we want here in New England. Like,
Make
we want a team
football
that's
competent
competitive.
again. Yes.
Yeah, like, make football competent again.
There we go.
You know, that would almost come out as a curse word because yeah, okay, go ahead, yes.
But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. It's been fun, man. Like, they're in games. They're playing hard. Like, you know, like, they're not getting the doors blown off. We're not seeing backbreaking interceptions every other play like we were seeing last year. Like, of course you got to feel good about where they're at. And you also got to feel good about how Drake May started to look at the end of the preseason. You know, they're getting them ready while being competitive. And now he gets to sit and watch and develop that way.
Talking with Khari Thompson, Boston.com. Khari, John and I here on the show over the time, I've been saying that I find it very odd that in what's clearly a rebuild, that there are some people who are questioning the competency of Gerard Mayo before he even started coaching any of the games. Do you feel like, and this is just me and maybe you feel the same, maybe you feel differently. Do you feel that people want Mayo to fail so that way they could probably say, okay, that experiment, we tried it, it didn't work, we can go get this person? Or do you feel like, all right, after week one, some people are starting to come around a little more?
I think we're just so used to Bill. Like, we've had 24 years of one guy doing the job, and Gerard's going to get measured against what Bill does, good or bad. And so I think here in Boston, like, we just have tunnel vision. Like, it was Bill's way for so long. And, you know, it got bad at the end. I don't think people are rooting for Gerard to fail. I think if you're a true Patriots fan, you want your team to do well. Like, if you're hoping the team is bad, you can get him fired for another to bring in another guy. I mean, that's just ridiculous on its face. Like, you're not a real fan if you think that.
So I want to ask you about the offensive line, Khari, because Jacoby Brissett, to me, like we joked about making football competent again, but he's been much more competent than what the Patriots had at quarterback last year. But it still feels like this passing game is kind of stuck in the mud. And do you look at that as Jacoby still either making some mistakes or growing into his role as the starter? Is it just the offensive line? Are the receivers having trouble to separate? Is it Van Pelt? Like, what's going on with this passing offense, and why has it been so limited through 2 weeks?
It's a mix of things. I think you have to start up front with the offensive line because, to me, football starts with the big fellas on both sides of the ball. And we have to be real. The offensive line was not good on Sunday. Like, Jacoby was running for his life. He got sacked 3 times. It should have been more. Like, Jacoby was extending plays with his legs. But we got to be real, too. Jacoby was out there missing reads. But you had to ask, why is he missing reads, right? Because I think on some of those, because he had dudes at time wide open that, you know, like, he just wasn't feeling comfortable. Like, he had to make all those plays with his legs. And you saw those yards Hunter Henry got. Those were on busted plays mostly. That was the play broke down. Jacoby had to go run, scramble out of the pocket. Nobody's open. Oh, there's 85. There's the guy who I'm comfortable with. So that's what he was doing all day. He was hitting one guy who was really comfortable with. And then, yes, the receivers also have to do a better job of getting separation. I mean, the offense just has to do better all the way around.
I would ask this, though. If this Patriots team would have 180 rushing yards and 170 passing yards per se, wouldn't that be the formula of them to not only be in the game but a chance to win it? It's not going to be pretty, but wouldn't that give them the best chance to win it?
Of course. And the thing is, you can't – so it's a slim margin of error. Like, you're right. If you told me that the Patriots are going to go out and pound the ball for 180 yards on this Seahawks defense, I'd feel pretty good going into the game. But you had – a couple massive mistakes that just crushed you. Like, I mean, that miscommunication between Gonzalez and Duggar that left DK wide open for that 56-yarder, you can't have that. That's 2 of your premier defensive guys, and that's not DK doing anything fancy. That's literally DK sprinting in a straight line and 2 of your guys going, no, you get him. No, you get him. You know, that you can't have that. You can't have blocked kicks in a crucial point of the game. Like, if they make that kick, they're up 6 and Seattle needs a touchdown. And I got enough faith in the Patriots defense that they wouldn't have let him in the end zone. A field goal is one thing, but they wouldn't have let him in the end zone.
Khari, you talked about some of the mistakes from yesterday, and I largely agree with you. I think you can add in kind of the clock management at the end of the first half as well. This is a coaching staff with a rookie head coach, rookie defensive coordinator, a guy who hasn't been a offensive coordinator, play caller, if you will, in 15 years, essentially a rookie special teams coordinator. I know he did it in college. based off what you've seen this summer and even after week one, where's your confidence level that they'll kind of see these things and correct them? Because I think one of the issues, at least that I had the last 2 years under Bill, is that they would make these mistakes or have turnovers time and time again and not correct them. What's your confidence this staff will do that differently?
I don't know. It's hard to project the in-game adjustments. What I will say is I do believe that Gerard knows situational ball. Like whether or not he's going to execute that in the game, like that's a complete different story. Like we got to give these guys some time to develop. But I mean, these dudes have been there. They've been on the staff. DeMarcus has been on the staff for a long time. They are experienced. And I think the big thing that's kind of the difference from last year is like, these dudes are fired up to play for their coaches. Like more than in-game execution, like you can tell these dudes are buying in, and it's like keeping them in games. Like they seem like they want to learn and get better and like play for this group. So I think that's where you're going to see a lot of dramatic improvement.
All right, Khari, before you get out of here, we appreciate spending some time with us. Of course, you know that Lil Wayne has been denied his opportunity to perform at the Super Bowl by pretty much the people in Louisiana who make this decision. What was the song do you think that just horrified them and said there's no way he could be on stage? Lollipop, Gonorrhea, or Cat Food?
I mean, it's got to be I think Gonorrhea is just
Khari, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, well, I would say Lollipop because the visual, right? I mean, and plus the visual to America, I think it just absolutely ends everything. So John, I think Khari agrees that both the offense did their job and the defense didn't do their job. Yeah. See, he agrees with me.
I think I'm going to take away whichever answers fit my narrative better, KJ.
Oh, your questions are the ones that get your. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Khari, thank you so much for being here on KJ and Lyons, man. Come back through anytime.
Love it. Thanks, guys.
Oh, absolutely. Khari A. Thompson at Boston.com.
Yeah. And I think one thing he said that is a good point, and I know you and I have talked about this, but it's worth mentioning again, is there has to be an element of patience here. Like, these guys are all new at this. He said, because he even said, I'm not sure exactly if they're going to get all these things corrected, but we don't know because they haven't done it before. And I think we saw, at least in the summer, there were times they made mistakes, say training camp or preseason games, and we saw little things get corrected. And we saw them look a lot better in week one against Cincinnati than they did in their last two preseason games. So,
the NFL does that to you week by week, right? If you after 1 week, the Patriots have a win, the Jets have a loss, and Tua goes down. So there's a feeling you're like, hey, if this team can get to 2-0, it buys itself some time before whether the inevitable happens, or at least I'll have some enjoyable football a little longer than misery. And that's what's so fascinating about the league. Everybody has their predictions until people get hit and tackled or what happens. The Chiefs are going to look different. Tua just announced today that he's not going to quit, which is something totally different. So you want to stay around for Just a Jag here in about 10 minutes. So many different things are happening. So for a team that's projectively bad, you feel like, okay, other things are happening that provide a level of hope. So, yeah, it's tough to see that loss yesterday. But I think I said it on Twitter yesterday, and that usually doesn't count what I say because I've been drinking much of the game, is this was a win-some, lose-some game, right? Week one was not a game you expected them to win. This was one of those like you're like, okay, if they did everything right, they should win this game. I say the one thing they didn't do right was the miscommunication for DK Metcalf to pretty much moonwalk into the end zone.
Yeah. And like I said, I think it's more than that, but I agree with the premise in that if this is the way they're going to play, like they beat Cincinnati, and I thought they played better against Cincinnati across the board than they did yesterday, and then they lost to Seattle because they didn't play quite as well. Like the margin for error, because we talked about, right, the talent on defense I think is pretty good, but you're still missing Barmore. You still traded Judon, so maybe not as elite
maybe the
talent.
Lack of leadership in the back that you've historically had, right? McCourty's been gone for a couple of years. So in fairness, Peppers is on the other side of the field when that breakdown happens.
Yeah. But
so
they gave Duggar a lot of money, too. Like, he should know better than that. You know what I mean? Like, that's a leader to – like, I get what you're saying, but, like, at this – it's not like Duggar's in his second year or something. He's been here since 2020. They gave him an extension. Like, that's a mistake that, you should know better than. But I think, again, there's a ceiling on what this team is going to do offensively. Like, they're not going to score 31 points a game. So they're going to have these grinded-out games, and – they won one against Cincinnati, to your point. Now they lost one against Seattle, and I think we're going to see that happen quite a few more times this year.
Yeah, well, I think with the Jets on Thursday, that's going to be pretty interesting. We'll get into the conversation about the Jets game coming up as well. Plus, we'll get to your text and calls, 37937, the text line, 617-779-7937. KJ and Lyons, WEEI, Just the Jag is next. Thank you so much for hanging out on Patriots Monday.